Hello, Park Street Board of Elders. So as I think about how to use our time together, I'm primarily seeking to zoom out on sort of a narrative side and then also take a little bit of a philosophical perspective or an ecclesiastical perspective. So bear with me on the two modes of communication. But first, I want to take a step back and just look at what I think are some challenging dynamics in the last few years. As we think about how and why people have left Park Street, whether on staff or as members, um, I do think that it seems like, and please help me understand a little better, and anybody feel free to reach out, but it seems like unequal weights and measures have been applied in core areas that hopefully we can do better going forward. And I'd say one broad perspective is over time, as concerns have popped up about people on, let's say, on staff, occasionally they've risen to the level that a lawyer is used or a law firm is used. So, in the case of Kimberly Morrison, we hired a law firm. In the case of um, Michael Balboni, we had a professional prosecutor give a one-sided testimony of potentially what his thoughts and actions, what could have led to his thoughts and actions or prompted his thoughts and actions. But then when there are problems that seem to be more widespread that are related to the Board of Elders directly and members on the Board of Elders directly, we don't turn to anybody with any kind of legal training. It's more pastoral training and more, people with a fiduciary or people with a reason, with maybe six figures worth of reasons to do what those accused want or those who seem to be propagating problems want. Um, and I think as I think about it, it is just it doesn't seem like we're truly seeking truth. It doesn't seem like we're truly seeking um, justice. It seems like we know what we're doing, and we've always known what we're doing, and we're going to continue to know what we're doing. And you can trust us to know that you can trust us that we know what we're doing, and we're competent. We've got this. And I want to ask if we sort of look at the narrative over time with staff shrinking precipitously, membership shrinking precipitously, giving shrinking precipitously, um, missionaries, longtime missionaries, dedicated missionaries resigning. Um, do we have this? Is the way that we're operating working? And I do want to call out something very specific, which is that particular prosecutor who um, gave a testimony against Michael um, in October of 2023, happens to be our moderator. Hi, Jeff. And he said, if we can't handle this being the charges that Michael levied against Mark, if we can't handle this, then we don't deserve to be your elders. We shouldn't be your elders. And so he is moderator. Jeff, you're moderator now after saying those words and acknowledging again and again and again through your actions that you actually can't handle this. You tried to get a vote of the congregation that was non-binding. It was a supermajority that fell from 98% when Mark was called to 66% in that non-binding vote. And then when there was a binding vote a few months later, the congregation voted that the guy that you're supporting, the guy that you think has the sauce, the guy you think is amazing, actually has significant evidence of spiritual abuse. And so, do you have this? Are you handling this? I'd like to know how you are, because by the metrics, it doesn't appear so. By the progression of the church's health, it doesn't appear so. And even by the progression of the church's health after the people that we supposedly are causing the church to be unhealthy. I mean, it's kind of where do we actually have this? Is the way that we operate and the way that we've been operating working? And if it is, okay. If what we want is a shrinking church, okay, great, let's keep going. But maybe what we want is a different approach so that we can get different results. And I am not here to necessarily prescribe that exact approach. Obviously, there are plenty of actions that I think could be taken, like um, allowing members who have been removed without their consent to come back, or seeking to restore transparency and congregational accountability and authority, holding leaders accountable to the same scriptural standards and the same bylaws standards that apply to all in the church, and maybe refusing to use the tools of the world, such as spin and suppression and selective memory, and embracing Christ's model of open-hearted correction. So I don't know how we'll get there from here, but I hope we can, and I'll continue to pray that we can. Now, I mentioned there's kind of a second part of this, and again, I talked about the narrative. I think throughout there's something that's pretty important that was gradually broken starting, let's say circa 5 years ago, but probably actually longer than 5 years ago. I just wasn't here before then. And that's around the congregational polity of the church, adhering to the bylaws, adhering to congregational votes, congregational requests that are allowed in the bylaws. I think we really need to take a look at, are we still a congregational church? I mean, yes, we have an annual meeting where congregants vote for a predetermined slate of candidates. And in theory, there are congregational bylaws that don't seem to be put into practice when it matters, or at least when a lot of congregants seem to think it matters. And so I think perhaps, and this is getting towards, hey, what does it actually take to maybe change the health of the church? I think we could have some integrity in what we are and have some clarity in what we are. If we're congregational, let's commit to it. Let's be more transparent. Let's go out in the open, right, with it. Or let's say recommit to it. If we think that our method of leadership, our style of governance should be vested more in you all, in the elders, in ministerial leadership, there are plenty of non-denominational churches that do that, and that's not sinful. It's good in many ways, but I think it is sinful to say that we are something and continue to say that we are something because it's good for our brand, but then not actually live it out in terms of how we interact with the messiness of congregational polity. So I hope that we can agree. We'll never fully agree. It's congregationalism. That's not how congregationalism works. But I hope that we can have healthy disagreement on what it means on the specifics of exactly how we live out our church life, and allow that to be a good thing, and allow that to sometimes be inefficient and sometimes be unpredictable and to be messy. And if not, then maybe you don't. If that doesn't sound like the right approach to you, then maybe you don't have this, and maybe you would rather serve on a different kind of church governance, whether it's explicitly changing this church or switching to another church. but I hope that we can get clarity in one of those ways, because I think if we don't take one of those three routes, then we're probably condemning Park Street to continue on the trajectory that it's been on. So, take my 2 cents for what it is. I'll, again, happy to talk with you about these matters outside of Gordon Conwell's academic terms. And again, we'll continue to pray for you.